What's up guys, it's Eric from Rare Candy and today we're back with another Guardians Rising deck profile for you. And this time we're going to be taking a look at Trevenant Vileplume. So this is going to be the same list that we actually featured in our recent testing rounds video. So if you want to see how this deck looks in action, I'll be sure to put a link somewhere for you to check that out as well. And if you guys haven't seen our testing rounds videos before, these decks that we feature in them are usually kind of rough, unrefined starting points for us to start testing with. So there might be some room for improvement in here, but like I said, it's just kind of a starting point for us to start testing with. So, taking a look at the new Trevenant from Guardians Rising, and since this is a Trevenant deck, we're playing 4 Phantom. And you might be thinking, well, why aren't you playing the one from Breakpoint that has Ascension, lets you evolve right into your Trevenant? Well, actually, there is a new Grass Phantom, and since Forest of Giant Plants is still a legal card, we're going to play this one. The attack on it, not too relevant, but you can confuse your opponent for a double Colorless energy. But Trevenant is the main attacker of the deck here, so we're playing 4 of this guy, 120 hit points, grass type, so it can use Forest of Giant Plants. But we're taking a look at, mainly for its first attack, it does 30 times the number of trainer cards in your opponent's hand, just for a double Colorless energy. And so, one thing that's important to note, it's not item cards, it's trainer cards. That means items, supporters, or stadiums. So the obvious combo here is we're going to try to get out our Vileplume to item lock our opponent, and hopefully between that and the other trainer cards they normally have in their hand, we can hit for a lot with our Trevenants. So that's kind of the general idea of the deck. Fire weakness, Volcania knocks you out in 1 hit regardless, so I don't know if that's a big deal. 2 retreat cost is actually pretty good. That might sound weird, but we're attaching a DCE to Trevenant, so that means we can just retreat for 1 DCE as well. So next up we have 1 Trevenant BREAK. That's going to be the last of the Trevenant line, and it's kind of an odd card you might think, but you can actually use Forest of Giant Plants to evolve all the way up into this guy. Even though he is Psychic, it doesn't matter. It's just what the previous form that matters in terms of using Forest of Giant Plants. But this is cool because it gives our Trevenant a little bit of an HP boost all the way up to 160. It allows us to hit things like Espeon GX, Hoopa EX, and Mega Mewtwo EX for weakness. And also its attack Silent Fear, since we are running Psychic Energy in this list, can be actually kind of helpful at times since this is an item lock deck. Sometimes you can Lysandre up something with a big retreat cost and use Silent Fear to spread 3 damage to all of your opponent's Pokemon. So it's kind of an interesting attack, but we're mainly using it for the HP buff and the additional typing. Okay, so next up we have our Vileplume line. So we're playing 3 Oddish, 3 Gloom, and then 3 Vileplume. Because Vileplume has that ability, Irritating Pollen, each player can't play item cards from their hand. So like I said, that's kind of the combo with our Trevenants. So next up we have 2 Tapu Lele GX. This is going to be one of the most hyped cards that came out of Sun and Moon. And if you guys haven't seen our set review, we talked a ton about this thing as well in it. But so a lot of these Vileplume decks a lot of times will run like a single attachment attacker, like backup attacker like a Tauros or a Lugia or something like that. But Tapu Lele not only fits that requirement, or I shouldn't say requirement, but it fits that type of role, but also is a consistency booster because it has the Wonder Tag ability. Whenever you bench Tapu Lele from your hand, you get search your deck for a supporter. So this is really good because under item lock, sometimes your hand can get clunky and you can't, Ultra Ball for a Shaymin or something like that. So you can sometimes just play Tapu Lele down, grab the supporter you want, especially if your Vileplume gets Lysandre. Sometimes you can bench a Tapu Lele and grab an Olympia to get right out of the active spot. But like I said, we're mainly also using it for the attack energy drive for a double Colorless energy, 20 times the number of energy on both active Pokemon, don't apply weakness or resistance. So just a solid backup attacker, because Trevenant also does have some interesting problems with it where your opponent can kind of play around it. Like if they end themselves to a low hand size, it's going to really limit the amount of damage you can do because your damage output's contingent upon how many item cards or how many trainer cards are in your opponent's hand. So if our opponent is trying to play around our Trevenant strategy, this gives us an additional way to do damage. And since we are running Psychic Energy in this list, we can abuse Tapu Cure GX as well if we choose to. It doesn't happen too often, but for 1 Psychic Energy, you get to heal all damage from 2 of your bench Pokemon. So decent attack. It doesn't get used all the time, but we don't have any other GXs in the deck, so why not use the attack once in a while. And to round out the Pokemon line, we're just playing 2 Shaymin EX, pretty standard, just for the setup ability. Moving on to our supporters, we're playing 4 Professor Sycamore and 3 N, you know, kind of the backbone of most decks. Discard your hand, draw 7, or shuffle, or each player shuffles their hand in their deck and draws equal to the amount of prize cards they have. Like I said, pretty standard for most decks. 2 Lysandre, just to switch our opponents active with one of their bench Pokemon. You know, choose what we want to take knockouts on, or like I said, maybe even Lysandre up something with a big retreat cost to use Trevenant BREAK's attack. And then 2 Olympia to round out our supporters. So switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon and heal 30 damage from the Pokemon you switched. So this is good because, like I said, if we have to evolve into Vileplume and we don't have a Float Stone, our opponent will sometimes Lysandre up Vileplume, and this will let us get out of the active spot that way. Or, you know, it's just nice to be able to have a way to retreat that doesn't involve you discarding your energies. So definitely a solid card in Vileplume decks. So next up, 4 Trainer's Mail. So look at the top 4 cards of your deck. Pick a trainer card you find there. Pretty common card in most decks, especially in this type of deck. Vileplume decks, I think, should almost always max out Trainer's Mail just to help ensure they can get Forest of Giant plants out. So 4 Ultra Balls next. You know, pretty common in most decks. Discard 2 cards from your hand. Search your deck for any Pokemon. 2 Level Ball, search your deck for Pokemon under 90 hit points. This will allow us to get Phantoms, Oddishes, and our Glooms. And then we're also playing 1 Timer Ball as well. Flip 2 coins for each head. Search your deck for an evolution and put it into your hand. So this is good, obviously, to grab Gloom, Vileplume, and Trevenant. You could debatably cut Timer Ball for an additional Level Ball if you really want to. I think that'd be fine as well, but I was like, yeah, we'll play with Timer Ball. We'll see what happens with it. But I think either way is fine. So next up, we have 1 Revitalizer. Put 2 grass Pokemon from your discard into your hand. So a lot of times in this deck, you'll be digging through your deck as fast as you can on the first turn, trying to get out Vileplume, and sometimes you'll have to discard, you know, pieces of your Vileplume line or your Trevenant line, you know, while you're digging to try to set up the lock. And so Revitalizer is just a cool card to help us, you know, get a piece back out of our discard. And then 3 Float Stones, just a tool card, gives our Pokemon free retreat, whoever it's attached to. So ideally we want to get them down on our Vileplume, but also it's cool if we can give our Trevenants free retreat as well. And then rounding out the trainer cards in this list, we have 4 Forest of Giant Plants, kind of the backbone of the deck. It lets each player's grass Pokemon evolve the first turn they're put into play. So like I said, you know, everyone's probably familiar with this by now, but it's going to let us evolve straight up to Vileplume to get that turn 1 item lock. So that's going to be it for the trainer cards. Pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy or techy. Just everything we need basically to get set up. So moving on to the energy, we have 4 double Colorless energy and 4 psychic energy. So Tapu Lele and Trevenant both use double Colorless, so obviously we're going to use that. But why you know, a lot of people might be thinking, well, Trevenant can attack for grass energy too. Why not just use grass energy? Well, that's because Trevenant doesn't really have a whole lot of hit points, 120, and its second attack takes 3 attachments, which is a lot to commit to just 1 Trevenant. So if the second attack was maybe a grass and a double Colorless, we'd probably just be playing grass, but the fact that it's 2 grass really deters me from being able to power up a Trevenant with 3 energy. It just seems a little clunky. So we're playing Psychic Energy. That way we can abuse Trevenant BREAK's attack and Tapu Lele's if need be, since more than likely they'll be more relevant than Trevenant's second attack. But yeah, guys, that is going to be our Trevenant list that we're looking at. Definitely a fun deck. It's cool to be able to have a Vileplume deck where your main attacker is also a 1 prize attacker. A lot of the big Vileplume decks have a bunch of 2 prize attackers, so it's kind of cool. We'll have to see how Trevenant does. I actually really like the idea of Trevenant BREAK in here. I'd like to maybe even find room for a second one. It just seems pretty cool. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this look at Trevenant. As usual, also with these early deck profiles that we do, if there's anything in this list that you disagree with or you like or you dislike, we always love to hear your feedback. So let us know in the comments below what you think of this type of idea. You think it's any good? But yeah, stay tuned too, because we also have a ton more Guardians Rising coverage and deck ideas that are being posted. And like I said too, if you want to see this deck in action, I'll be sure to put a link to that as well. But as usual, guys, feel free to like and subscribe, and don't forget to check out our merchandise over at rarecandytcg.com. If you can pick up something to help support the channel, it'd mean a lot to us. But with that, I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you for the next one.